Welcome to the Essence of Health Tea Time Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Shayla Toombs Withers. As a double board certified family and obesity medicine physician with over 12 years of experience in medicine, I teach motivated individuals how to achieve their desired quality of life while preventing and reversing chronic diseases. It's tea time. On today's episode of the Essence of Health Tea Time Podcast, I have a special guest, Yakutala Ibrahim. Yakutala is a registered dietitian nutritionist and the owner of Nutrition Prescriptions, a consulting practice that specializes in recipe development and analysis, nutrition education, and women's wellness. She serves as a member of the Halal Food and Nutrition Security Research Advisory Group to evaluate access to halal foods and food and nutrition security among Muslim college students in the United States. She is also a freelance writer and recipe developer for Halal Consumer Magazine. Yakutala has extensive experience in developing recipes and nutrient analysis for cookbooks and is the co-author of Cultural Food Practices Second Edition, a publication of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and a co-author of the Comprehensive Ramadan Reset Guidebook, a preparation resource for those observing Ramadan annually. She utilizes her creative talents in developing and promoting healthy recipes, interactive nutrition, education programs, and loves empowering others to learn and apply evidence-based nutrition into every facet of their lives to understand the connection between faith, health, and wellness. Welcome back to the show, Yakutala. I am so excited to have you back on the show again.
Okay, thanks for having me. Happy International Women's Day. Happy
Yes,
Friday. Glad to be back.
For sure. Now, for our listening audience, I do invite you to listen to the Essence of Health Tea Time Podcast, Season 1, Episode 16, The Tea on Starting a Plan for Healthy Nourishment. This is where Yakutala and I spilled the tea together on some quick and easy ways to get more healthful plants on your plate, and how having the right resources and utilizing community resources can play an important part in successfully achieving your health goals. But on today's episode, we'll be spilling the tea on the concept of farm to fork or farm to table eating and its health benefits. Now, if you're listening at a date beyond the time that this episode is released, we're actually recording this in the month of March, which is also National Nutrition Month. And the theme for National Nutrition Month 2024 is Beyond the Table, as a way of highlighting the farm to fork aspect of nutrition. So, Yakutala, tell us, how does understanding the journey of food from farm to fork influence our dietary choices and our overall health?
Happy National Nutrition Month. When we're able to understand the concept of farm to fork, we can actually make better choices as far as what we choose to eat, what we choose to purchase, where our foods come from. And this information can actually help us make better choices and better decisions about what we purchase, the time of year, what season we're in, right? And that allows us to make better choices about what we put on our plates and what's available.
Yeah, for sure. I saw even, and we'll share with the audience how they can follow you on social media, but I even saw one of your social media posts where you shared some seasonal foods. And tell us about that. Like, even some of those seasonal foods maybe that you shared recently, and why is that important to consume foods within their season?
When you purchase seasonal foods, and some of the resources that we shared is called What's in Season, and we go every month and we see what's in season. It allows you to purchase seasonal produce at its peak. It tastes better. It's better quality. You're not importing it, from different countries where it's in season there, but may not be in season here. And it really allows you to support local agriculture and local economy and get the best quality of produce at its peak. And oftentimes it's actually more cost effective when you buy in season as well.
Yeah, that's so true. Because a lot of times, if food has had to go through other preservative processes because it's not usually grown in that season, then that can add up on the price that you may pay for that food, and can also affect the nutrients that you receive from that particular food item. So yeah, that's so important.
And
I think-
produce
oh,
goes
go ahead.
through
Yeah.
produce goes through seasons, right? So if you're purchasing in season, you're going to get a produce, fruit, or vegetable that's known to grow in season. For instance, if you get a watermelon in December, it's not going to taste like a watermelon in July and August, right? Because it's peak season in July and August. So it's going to affect the taste and the quality of that produce.
Yeah, and it's so funny you mentioned even watermelon. Watermelon is one of my personal favorite fruits. And so
Mine too.
I have a personal testament that you are so right that watermelon purchased in the winter does not taste like that fresh watermelon you get in the summer. Yeah. All right. Now, so we've talked a little bit too about local farmers markets. I know I definitely typically recommend them to my patients because they can get affordable produce that way and be even introduced to some produce that, may not necessarily be able to be found in the local grocery store. So, what would you say even are some of those other benefits of supporting local farmers markets, not just for our health, but even for our community?
So your health, of course, because you're getting better quality produce and foods in general. And you have the artisan markets. It's not just produce, but you get specialty honeys, you get specialty cheese and dairy products. It's a way to support local agriculture as well as small businesses that are our farmers in the community. And it lets you have a hands-on approach again to where your food comes from. You know the farmer who grew your food, right? You can talk to them. It creates a better relationship and link to where your food comes from, right? So you're supporting local agriculture, you're supporting local farmers through businesses, the community farmers market. I know here in Atlanta we have community farmers market on different days of the week. Sometimes on Saturday they have like a fall and a winter and then like a summer market, and they post when their community farmers markets are. So you can go out, you can talk to the farmers, you can get access to the best quality foods. It's just a way to really be engaged, in that farm to fork process and be able to get the best quality foods and make better
Yeah.
food choices.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned honey. Honey is one of those, and for my vegan listeners, they probably will pause on honey. But for others, honey does actually have some really great health benefits, especially when you do purchase it locally. Here in the South, we're both in the South, and we see a lot of allergies, those environmental and seasonal allergies that come about this time of year. And that local honey can actually be helpful for boosting your immune system and helping with those allergies because it's also local to those things that environmentally that you've been exposed to. So yeah, that's definitely one of those great benefits for sure too of supporting local and supporting your local farmers in that way.
Absolutely.
And so now if we are navigating a grocery store, what are some of those tips that you may have for individuals when they're trying to select the more nutritious options when navigating in the grocery store?
I always encourage my patients and clients to make a list so you're not just like randomly picking up items that you don't have a recipe for.
You're not
But also
hungry
looking at
shopping.
what is your overall approach when you go grocery shopping, and where are you grocery shopping? Are you going to, say, DeKalb Farmers Market or a farmers market? Or are you going to Kroger or Publix or any other local? And what are you looking for? What's the goal, right? So really just looking at, I want to pick up my fruits, my vegetables. What do they look like? If you're shopping for foods that are processed, looking at minimizing it, maybe not doing ultra processed, but minimally processed. And a lot of times people get stuck on the term processed. Anytime you change a food from its initial form, it's a form of processing. So if I chop up a vegetable, I've processed it. But then you also have ultra processing, where you no longer really can tell that food from its original form. So be very careful, of course, reading your ingredients, making sure that whatever you do purchase has minimal ingredients or is a whole food itself, right? Paying very special attentions to not only the ingredients list, but the nutrition facts panel, limiting sodium, and maximizing vitamin and nutrient content. How much protein is in this? How much fiber is this giving me, right? So you can make informed decisions about what you put into your body. What are you getting out of the food that you're purchasing? So a lot of it is education, reading your labels, having a plan for when you go grocery shopping, and just being overall mindful of your intent and purpose in planning your meals.
Yeah, those are really great tips. Yeah, and especially, it's so important for folks to read those food labels. And, folks, once you start reading those food labels, you probably would even be surprised with some of the stuff that's put into food because, sometimes I'll read a label and I'm thinking to myself, like, why is that even there? Like, you didn't even, need that. And usually it's some, preservative reason or something that the company has put it in there for, or even just to make it taste better to you as the consumer so that you come back and purchase a lot of it off the shelf. But it's not, giving you any nutritional benefit the majority of the time when they have, those really long list of multiple ingredients in a food item. So it's so important for folks to look at those food labels and definitely, if it's something that you probably can't pronounce, then it's probably something that you may not want to eat to if it's on that food label, because it should be ingredients that you can readily understand. If it's something potato, then it should say potato. If it's, a cereal, it should say a whole grain, and not some of these other really difficult to pronounce or other additives that may be in the food.
It's interesting. You mentioned the ingredients, and some of ingredients that are increasing maybe the flavor, or a lot of times there'll be ingredients that actually are included to increase shelf life or
Mhm.
prolong shelf life. The key is that you're trying to eat more often than not fresh, right? So making sure that again, it's not like 30 40 ingredients on the list when there should just be like 5. So fewer ingredients, fresher foods for the most part. Even if you do fresh frozen vegetables, right? It's processed, but it's minimally processed, and there are not any additives to that, right? It's frozen at its peak, fresh frozen. So you can still do those, okay? The key is to not add a ton, of saturated fats and oils and salt and things like that to it. So just being mindful about your overall approach.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And as that reminder, we were talking about seasonal foods. The key to that with frozen foods, yeah, is that they are picked at the peak when they are in season, and then they're frozen to preserve them so that you can consume them at other times of the year. But yeah, that is one of the other beauties, though, too, of buying frozen food. So you don't have to worry about it, going spoiled on you, and you're still able to get those things and retain some of those nutrients because it was picked at that time when it was in peak seasonally. If you're frustrated with your weight, taking more medications than you like to, have been told that you are at risk for the development of a chronic preventable disease, or just are not feeling in the best of health, then I'm talking to you. Why? Because you're tired of fat dieting. You know it's time for a change, and you want a sustainable plan to improve your health. If you have found yourself at this place in life, well, I have developed a program that's just for you. It's called The Essence of Health, and it's your prescription for transformation. My goal with this program is to give you the tools needed to create sustainable lifestyle changes within a group coaching setting, along with one-to-one individualized coaching to give you a personalized path to health that's just for you. The benefits are priceless, so join today. Head on over to eohcoaching.com to learn more. The essence of health is in you. What are some of those tips? And, we've even mentioned some of them, but what are some of those tips that you have for staying nourished on a budget?
So a lot of it is looking at what are your health goals, and how does that align with the choices that you're making. Staying nourished on a budget, looking at including fruits and vegetables, if not fresh, then frozen, and then making sure that you're including things like protein, right? You have different types of protein. Are you animal based? Are you plant based? Can you do eggs? Can you do nuts and seeds and protein and other protein options that are non-perishable, right? You have beans. So really looking at what your approach is as far as your fruits, your vegetables, your macros when it comes to your carbohydrates, your proteins, your heart healthy fats, making a list and deciding where you're going to get the bulk of your food from. I know oftentimes my patients will use things like coupons, or they'll go to places where they can buy in bulk. So get your strategy straight, right? So a lot of times it is doable. It takes a little planning, but if you have a good strategy and you maximize your resources, you can definitely be successful.
Mhm. Yeah, those are great tips. And some, I might add that I will typically share with patients too are buy in bulk. So if you have, access to like the bulk bins at your local grocery store or your market, you can usually save that way, especially on those whole grain items. You can, if you buy, for instance, brown rice out of the bulk bin, it's usually a lot more cost efficient instead of buying it already prepackaged out. The same with things like quinoa or barley, buying them out of that bulk bin, dried beans even too. You can typically get them for really, pennies on the dollar when you're buying them out of the bulk bin instead of already in a package or already pre-prepared. So that's, another tip I like to share. And then going back to even those frozen foods that we talked about, you can typically get frozen vegetables for a lot cheaper than the fresh ones. So if you have to, purchase it that way, then I certainly recommend get them frozen. And then if you have to purchase it out of the can, get it out of the can. You can always rinse those vegetables to get some of that extra sodium and things that are off of them. But, if this is one of the methods that helps you stay on budget, then certainly do that over some less helpful things that you may be considering.
If you're doing canned, you can also get no added sodium or low sodium options. And then you can also take advantage of a lot of the community pantries that are around. I know since COVID, a lot of them have popped up, and I do have some clients that help supplement some of their grocery bills or whatever with pantry foods. It just depends on which one you go to. I know there's one here in East Atlanta. It's enough to share, and they have fruits and vegetables and dairy products twice a month. So really just looking at ways to supplement your grocery shopping.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great reminder too. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. And so even pivoting a little bit, what are some key points to keep in mind regarding food safety while also minimizing food waste?
So food safety, yeah, food safety is very important, especially as we get into spring and summer, year round, really. But just looking at making sure that you keep foods that should be refrigerated, and foods that are can sit out at room temperature, making sure that foods are actually kept in an environment that does not, promote, growth of bacteria and such, making sure that you're cooking foods to proper temperatures, and really just making sure, usually if you have leftovers or something like that, you can keep them in the refrigerator for up to 7 days. But I practice FIFO, first in, first out. So making sure that you pay attention to what foods are going into your refrigerator, how often you're going to rotate them out, making sure that you're cooking foods to temp, and just paying attention to what you have, even in your freezer, your pantry, your cabinets, rotating out foods that you're no longer using. A lot of foods do have expiration dates, like sell by, use by dates. So you want to pay special attention to that as well. So you're not eating or consuming foods after their date.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, those are great tips. And then, too, I like that you mentioned first in, first out. Even if you have to repurpose those meals, so if you've cooked one dish and then you're tired of eating it by day three, but you still don't want it to go to waste, then repurpose it into something else. If it was a stir fry, maybe put it over some rice or some noodles or, turn something else into a sandwich so that you can also, remember those kind of repurposing things too, so that you can still utilize those food products without food waste. All righty. And now, I don't know if you've ever had a home garden, but if you have or haven't, share with us some of the benefits of a home or even a community garden. And then what are some easy ways that, folks may can get started with this to also kind of have that farm to fork experience?
I did have an installation done for a garden, and we grew tomatoes and cucumbers and basil, and oregano. It was very simple to get started on the side of the house. It was fun because then we could say, "Oh, we have stuff in the garden that we can actually use," and it creates a sense of connection to your food, a sense of mindfulness. Even with community gardens, it's really great because you have this sense of input into the community garden. It's usually like a volunteer basis where you can put in and decide, what you guys grow and harvesting times, and everyone can kind of take from that harvest. So it's really nice. It's really nice to have. I would definitely, encourage that. You also have community supported agriculture or CSAs, and oftentimes those are run by farms and organizations where citizens can buy into the community supported agriculture and get a share on a monthly or seasonal basis. So that's another rate or another way to stay connected to community gardening and farming. So look into what's available in your area, in your community, and get involved.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you mentioned the CSA boxes because I love those too. And, to folks listening, if you've never looked into a CSA box, what typically happens, like Yakutala explained, how you can, support your local farmers and they give you a box of the produce that they're growing on their farm. And then they usually, distribute it out each week to you. Now, the fun part to that is you don't always know what are going to get in that box because it depends on, what's in season, like we talked about, and what, that farmer has been able to grow for that period of time. But it's also a great way for you to get introduced to some things that you may not have just readily, thought to purchase because you hadn't even heard of it before or you hadn't tried it before. So you might not have thought to purchase it, but you can get it in that CSA box and try something new and expose your palate to something new. So those are great.
Those are great tips. Oftentimes with the CSAs, you'll get a rotation of different produce depending on the time of year and season. But it presents an opportunity for you to get to know your vegetables and your fruits and how to prepare them. You may have never seen it or worked with it before, but you can identify recipes to use it.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I have even seen, I don't know if you've helped as a recipe developer, Yakutala, but I've seen with some CSA boxes where they'll even give you a little handout of recipes, which is nice to have too, especially for some of those fruits or vegetables that you may not be accustomed to.
Absolutely. And that's always helpful to have an idea of how to use the fruits and vegetables so they don't go to waste.
Yeah, yeah, for
Minimize
sure.
food waste.
Right. Yeah. Now, are there any last words of advice or last tips that you would like to share just as we highlight National Nutrition Month?
I would say get involved. I would say, explore new foods. Check out your local farmers market if you haven't already done so. Explore new recipes, right? Make it fun. Maybe get the kids involved. Really just kind of look at what your plan overall is as far as your nutrition strategy and, how you can make the best of it and make smarter choices and identify what your plan is going to be. And reach out. Dr. Shayla and I, we can help. We have additional resources. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And I'm glad you mentioned kids too, because especially as we talked about gardening, kids actually enjoy this kind of stuff. At my kids' school, they have a school garden that all the kids take part in taking care of. When we have had gardens here at home, my kids have happily gone out and helped. And that is a great way. A lot of people tend to have trouble getting their kids to eat vegetables, but that is a great way too to actually get your child to get more of those nutrition benefits from fruits and vegetables if they've had some time participating and seeing that growth process and seeing it go that whole farm to fork experience, then they're more likely to consume it. So thank you for sharing that with us.
I like that, a hand in harvesting, as I like to call it, because now they're familiar with it. They know, oh, I picked this. This is not foreign to me. So that when you prepare it or even involve them in the preparation, it creates a long-lasting relationship to food from an early age. We have a farm here, school farm, and they harvest on Sundays, and the kids can come out and be involved in the process. So I think that's a great way to start it off.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming back on the Tea Time podcast, Yakutala, and sharing with my audience again. So, just please remind us how they can connect with you to learn more about what you do and definitely to see those seasonal fruits and vegetables you share.
So you can follow me on Facebook at Nutrition Prescriptions LLC or Instagram. And that's also Nutrition Prescriptions. And I usually share that content out on a monthly basis and it rotates. So you'll definitely be able to see it. You can also book a session if you'd like to discuss kind of what you want your nutrition strategy to look like.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great week.
Thank you for joining me today on the Essence of Health Tea Time podcast. Click the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss a moment of the Essence of Health Tea Time podcast. Check out the show notes to obtain your free tips for healthy living guide to get you started on your health and wellness path. Follow me on social media at Essence of Health Wellness Clinic on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and at dr.tw@EOHWC on TikTok. Interested in becoming a member of the Essence of Health coaching program? Well, head on over to www.eohcoaching.com. The essence of health is in you.